So welcome to the Data Explorers Market Update with me, Will Duff Gordon. So today I'm wearing a Hermes or Hermes, whatever you call it, tie, and I'm also going to talk about Hermes because LVMH own 17.07% of Hermes. Now, this is new news, and people have been drawing, well, certain commentators have been beginning to suggest that there could be some parallels with what happened in the famous incident of Porsche surprising the market by announcing they own 74% of Volkswagen back in October 2008. So obviously we have to step in and say, are there any parallels, and let's sort of challenge that assumption looking at the data. Now, the bare facts of this, we reckon that less than 3% of Hermes' total shares in issue are short. If you look at it versus the free float, it's about between 4 and 5%, depending upon whose free float number you go with. And that represents about 30% of the shares that you can borrow in Hermes, and you can borrow, I think it is about 5% or 6% of Hermes' shares. All the exact numbers to the decimal point are in my report. So that is the backdrop. So we don't think there is likely to be a short squeeze in Hermes, and in actual fact, the fact that the share price has bombed up to over 200 euros after this announcement has meant that some people have started shorting it just very recently, and they're already making lots of money because the shares have slipped back down to 160 euros. But what we're really trying to say here is how come in France it's so hard to know who really owns the shares of the company? Why was it such a surprise that LVMH owns so much of Hermes? And is there any signs that that public information is slightly lacking in France, given what's just gone on? And the answer is, quite possibly yes. If you look at the shareholder register according to the public shareholders in Hermes, 4 of the 5 names are impossible to work out who stands behind them, and they are sort of French pseudonyms for cliffs, arrows, some piece of Greek mythology. And then the Vanguard is number 10 with 0.4%. They're the first recognisable name on the shareholder register. So clearly, it's pretty hard to see the wood from the trees when looking at Hermes' register. And one wonders whether or not this is going to be putting off some international investors when getting involved in France. Now, this is not a bad thing what LVMH have done, and they haven't said they want to take over Hermes, so let's not get too overexcited. But certainly the takeover rules and the rules of disclosure in the US and the UK are still very different to what is happening in France right now. If you want to see the whole report, it is at dataexplorers.com/news.